through, well, under there. So I'm just going to introduce the people that are here on the webinar today. So there's a few people here. We've got Alison, who will be running the webinar. Alison was formerly adult and mental health lecturer at the University of the West of Scotland, and subsequently worked as the programme leader at University of West of Scotland. In her final role at UWS, Alison was the enhancement and quality lead and was responsible for the school's academic portfolio and was the school's official correspondent to the NMC, amongst many other responsibilities she had. She was instrumental in the adoption of LT, so she's well versed in LT and how it's used for teaching nursing. She's recently returned to clinical practice, is completing her PhD and offering educational consultancy services as well. I've also got my colleague Tom Broughton with me. Tom's been at AD Instruments for 9 years now and is now our education training and technical support specialist and go-to person for all LT questions. And my name is Marcus Hughes. I've been at AD Instruments for 4.5 years, and I'm the UK and Ireland sales team leader. So I'm just going to hand over to Alison, and hopefully she'll take control of the slide deck, and she'll talk you through, and then we'll stop for questions at the end. Thank you.
I'm not moving, unfortunately. Moving now. Welcome, everyone. It's a real privilege to be able to talk you through this webinar today. I think just to set the scene for the next 3/4 of an hour or so, really what I want to do by the end of the presentation is to have shown you a comprehensive nursing curriculum design, which is holistic, applicable to patient care across the whole spectrum of conditions encountered in today's health and social care. I hope to have shown you the whole range and scope of clinical skills in this clinical skills collection that are used in day-to-day nursing practice. And I also want to promote how the e-learning, the platform itself, promotes the development of professional behaviours and attributes by consistently reinforcing the fundamental components of the code. For example, patient autonomy, consent, confidentiality, patient safety, duty of care, and fitness to practice. Now I'll just move on to the next slide, I hope. Right, okay. LT, as you see on the slide, is a cloud-based immersive platform. AD Instruments is a global company operating for some over 30 years, and its main business on track record is in creating tools for scientists and for educators. The LT for Nursing collection was launched in December 2015. It's notable that there's also a medical collection as well. The skills collection came a year later, and I've just seen from some of the people who've come into the conference, some of you are involved in clinical simulation, and I think I want to say up front, we're very aware of the investment institutions make in clinical simulation, and that LT will effortlessly integrate into that system. So I'll just move on to the next slide, which takes us to our professional regulatory body, Nursing Midwifery Council. I've got on there an arrow and the timelines. I'm sure everyone who's listening is very familiar with these timelines. They're designing and writing their own curriculums at the moment to have them all in place by 2020 in September there. What I really want to say is that LT supports the complexity of your nursing programmes, okay, and midwifery, with all its mandatory standards, content, proficiencies, all of the hours, and the 50% split between theory and practice. From my point of view and the company's point of view, the publication of these new 2018 NMC standards gives really an ideal opportunity to consider something fresh, maybe something different in terms of pedagogy and approaches to the actual curriculum. I just want to kind of give a little summary, which I'll go into in more detail as the slides actually progress. So what are the kind of main advantages? LT has multiple methodology inside it. Students interact all the time in videos and quizzes, audio bites, animations. They're always working on it. So it provides maximum student interactivity. You know, I was in education for some 18 years, as Marcus has said, and it is the most interactive system that I have ever come across in all that time. One of the good features of it is it's a series of authentic patient cases. These are real people. The clinical skills modules, again, pick on real patient data when they take the student through the preparation practice of skills. And then there are practicals where students can generate their own live physiological data. So the approach is effective in integrating all the major components of student self-directed learning. If you're using the cognitive apprenticeship, constructivism, query-based, problem-based learning, shared learning integration, so you've got group work and individual work going on. It also fits very nicely into a spiral curriculum, into one platform, and as I've said before, it dovetails quite seamlessly with clinical simulation methodology and or practicals, role play or professional patients, whatever your approach actually is. LT, it provides you with an alternative to traditional teaching and face-to-face methods, and also to traditional academic assessment, okay, based exams. LT includes digital assessment. In parallel, the integration of LT into the curriculum increases the time and the quality available for smaller group work and for clinical simulation and other methods. Later on, we have a piece of research from Otago Polytechnic in New Zealand, who implemented LT in 2015, and we also have the outcomes. They were in quite a challenging position. We have their outcomes also. So I'm just moving on to the next slide. I keep forgetting. Oh no, that's fit. Now you move to what you're seeing on the screen now is you know, a photograph really of some of the patients on LT, some of the exercises, data. I think there's some x-rays there in the background for you as well. LT can link theory and practice quite seamlessly through, it's a real patient journey through health and social care that's going on. It also is very, very consistent in its approach, if you like. Everything happens the same way in the case study. There is the patient case study, patient education and evaluation, which can become an exam, a practical, and then there is a scenario which dovetails you into simulation. In the skills modules, you've always got preparation, practice and quiz. Now, you're not, if you like, restricted to the content that's in LT by any manner of means. You can go in and select from an available menu of resources. You can customize these to your own requirements, your own academic level, you know, so you can add your own materials if you so wish. I think the big point of the slide is, again, it is real people, real stories and real data that the students are interacting with. I'll just go on to the next slide. When did I get muted, Marcus? I'll carry on. Sorry, there was a little problem with the microphone there. This is the student slide.
So if you can repeat what you said about this slide, please.
Just that slide, is that all I've missed? Right, okay, sorry, I don't know. How did that happen? Did I touch something maybe? Oops.
Maybe accidentally.
Yeah, student perspective. On either side of the hexagons here, the diagram, we have some quotes. One on the left-hand side is from a previous colleague, a nursing lecturer at the University of the West of Scotland. He's really making the point that when something is clinically relevant, you get the highest engagement from students. And I think we all know that from our own experience. On the other side, we have quotes from Otago Polytechnic lecturers, which are included in their research outcomes. And again, they're definitely telling you the same things. You know, they preferred it to face-to-face classes, and it helped them understand their course material better. Moving on, I'm going to pick up just some points on this slide just to kind of deepen the presentation a little bit. In terms of the Immersive Nursing Collection, it's a comprehensive platform. There's a plethora of holistic patient resources. It engages through the nursing process and optimises the theoretical learning, and it supports practice learning. In the patient case library, includes all the major illnesses and conditions affecting body systems, for example, hypertension, diabetes, neurological conditions, and so on. And you're going to see some little snippets of a patient in just a few slides. Interesting to note that all the patient cases are preceded with learning outcomes to guide the student. Now, the clinical skills modules, they include the whole range of skills, for example, assessment, food and nutrition, communication, medicine management, and we'll be seeing more of those as the presentation progresses. One of the big features of LT is the integration of knowledge. Obviously, initially a science-based company, so that we have anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, but it doesn't neglect in any way the patient's perspective, the psychosocial aspects of care, the family, the morality and ethics of care, etc. That is all included and very, very well integrated. Students are part of a technology-based society, and the platform is one that most students are absolutely familiar with, and they use it very, very easily. It's accessible 24/7 through a license system, and they engage quite easily with the multiple methodology, which I've mentioned, the patient videos and quizzes and diagrams, etc. The program steadily builds their reflective practice, it reinforces their learning, and it also has a portfolio inside it which they can build as they make their way through the patient cases. The patient journey is through health and social care. You have an initial presentation of the patient, which you're about to see, the diagnostics the patient goes through, therapeutics, treatments, discharge planning, and integrated into this patient case is the science, the patient's psychosocial circumstances, their perspective. You also meet members of the interprofessional team, including specialist medics and specialist nurses. They have little video clips as well. So it also brings into the frame interprofessional working, which is an important part of practice, obviously. In terms of the authentic patients, these are real patients, so great care is taken here with all the data that they have given us, that they've given the student access to. The student consents to a code of conduct at the beginning of each patient case before they can even proceed to the learning materials. And this reinforces their duty of care and supports the development of professional behaviours and attributes. In addition, this is on a screen, so the patient is taken through a checklist to ensure confidentiality both online and obviously within their actual learning environment. I'm just going to move to the next slide now. That's it now. Okay, so now we're going to see some patients, bringing these patients to life. So a little repeat here so that people are kind of getting a handle on what LT contains. So you've got the flow of the immersive nursing modules here, showing you the case study where you meet the patient, the patient education, evaluation, which this is what can become the digital exam, the laboratory, which is the practical, and the scenario, which is making its way into clinical simulation. And we have two patients here. We're going to see Mary Montgomery in just a second, and we have Rachel Pearson, a younger lady with myasthenia gravis. The patient case library includes adult, paediatric and midwifery cases. There is a pregnancy and a labour case. I think it's important to note at this point, I'm aware the QAA benchmark for nursing includes adult, mental health, learning disability and child, and LT provides knowledge and skills that are mandatory in all 4 fields of nursing. And at a later point, I've done a little cut down of a mapping to some of the important NMC standards. The very authentic nature of the patients gives great insight across all the fields of nursing into mental health, and it's complemented by the assessment of the patient's psychosocial circumstances and the accounts of the attending professionals. Again, the very least, when we're working across the fields, assessment using LT will bring the student to an abnormal finding. They then can look at referral, they can then look at investigating that abnormal finding. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, which again, this is a lovely kind of diagram of the patient case library. It's showing there are 31 patient packs, and down the right hand side of the slide you've got neurological, cardiovascular, respiratory, renal, reproductive, musculoskeletal, diabetes and some other conditions. So it's giving you really a bit more information on the whole range of patient conditions available to the students. Every body system is in fact covered. I keep forgetting to click, that's what's wrong. Right. So what I'm going to do now, this is Mary Montgomery, and I'm going to show you now. All the clips are very short, they're only a few minutes. The subtitles are on. You can use or not use the subtitles if you so wish, and when the student has seen this clip, they then have to note their observations in a little adjacent box. So I'm just going to play this for you just now. So good. Okay, so that's that slide. We'll move on to the next one. And in the next one, we're looking at Mary Montgomery. A year has passed. She was in hospital at the presentation slide. She's now at home. As you can see, she's got domiciliary oxygen and suction and such like, and she really has quite markedly deteriorated. Put this one on. In actual fact, Mrs. Mary Montgomery actually, has died. Her family continue to give consent for her case to be used. All the patients, I should say, have consented to their cases and all their information being used for educational purposes. But I think there's just really such a dramatic difference from the initial presentation in hospital to her being at home 1 year on following discharge from hospital. It really is end of life care at this particular point in time. Mary Montgomery I always find an excellent patient to use for year 1 students, because all her assessment is just very obvious in terms of breathlessness, in terms of fluid and nutrition, and so on. So she's an excellent patient. So I'm just going to move on now to the next slide. It's just repeating that one. Now I want to just introduce you a little bit more to the clinical skills modules, of which there are 18 Now, on the screen, I'm only showing you 3 of them. It's not large enough to get 18 on. And I've just picked out a few notable ones: assessment tools, clinical measurements, therapeutic communication with the icons. Now, at the side of the assessment tool, it's got preparation. At the side of clinical measurements, practice, therapeutic. At the side is quiz. What I should say is that in the assessment, there is preparation, practice, quiz. This is in every one. This is the pattern that every clinical skills module would follow. They all have 3 components and follow an identical pattern of learning. In the preparation, the student is introduced to the range of commonly used assessment tools, and these are systematically applied using the nursing process. In the practice component of it, the student engages with assessment, observation tools, interventions and evaluation, using both objective data and patient case data. The students can participate individually, or they can participate in groups. They can also role play. They're using real patient data in the practice component, and then they're asked to reflect on their learning experience. In the quiz, as in the evaluation in the nursing one, the student can reinforce and test their learning and have immediate graded feedback on their performance. And you can also use this in your institution as an actual digital exam. I'm just going to move on to the next slide. So again, I've tried to summarise the educator's perspective more on this slide to balance with the student's perspective earlier. Now on the left-hand side of the slide is a quote from Tony Wales, I think, who has joined us today, a nursing lecturer at UWS, and another ex-colleague of mine. And he's talking about how easy it is to author. Author being when you edit and work with the materials yourself to achieve exactly what you want in terms of resources and what you want in terms of academic level. And at the other side of the slide, we've got 2 nursing lecturers from Otago Polytechnic who are talking about the outcomes, more advanced practitioners, and again, what happens in the classroom. It becomes a much more interactive, practical space to use. And again, I'll summarise, I'll go around this summary obviously with you. In terms of curriculum innovation, it's an innovative platform available 24/7, accessed through a licensed system. And all LT users, they all consistently note that students engage very, very easily with the e-learning, both in groups and individually, and both during the theory and practice components of the programme. One of the students' other student comment is that the students like the fact that all their learning resources and their portfolio was stored in the one medium. That was a big advantage to them. Now, LT originates from New Zealand healthcare system, and it is comparable to the UK, but there are some differences in terms of drug names, treatment approaches. In this context, LT can serve to positively widen the student's experience by providing an international perspective on nursing and healthcare in another country. At the same time, you have the option to go in and use either the both names of drugs, change to the UK accepted name, or treatment, and use both, and use it as a tool for internationalisation and the global citizen approach. I have mapped LT against NMC standards, and I have a slide slightly later on that in actual fact shows that. And it does meet with those of the EU directive. The majority is commensurate with your internal QA standards through its innovative pedagogy, its student engagement, the level of interactivity, autonomous learning, and graduate attributes, where we are all looking for employability of students at the end of the day. In terms of pedagogy, it's underpinned by constructivism, where the idea of knowledge and meaning is generated from the interaction between experiences and ideas, i.e. learning is derived from experience through the construction of models to aid understanding of the world. So it's quite eclectic, it's got clear associations to experiential learning, experiential education, situated learning. Students are central in the learning and teaching process. And it's not just about the resources, the what the students learn, but also the how they learn through, multitasking in this interactive platform, and also how they're assessed. As I've said previously, LT easily replicates the spiral curriculum and the cognitive apprenticeship, the idea that learning occurs in the context of reality and is achieved through repeated observation, actions, practice of skills, and there is a distinct range of support given from the educator, which reduces as the programme increases and the students' confidence increases. LT motivates students to access information, retain that information, and to demonstrate achievement of that information, particularly in the evaluation and quiz components. Consistent methodology. LT follows a logical and distinct pattern of learning as the students progress through the patient case library and clinical skills modules, and you've already seen that to an extent. There is an internal portfolio which the students can develop and compile as their knowledge base and their ability to reflect matures. Digital assessment provides you with an alternative educational tool and can be used to increase the variety of assessment across your nursing programme. The content, I should say, in digital assessment is drawn from the patient case library and from the clinical skills modules, but it still retains the option for you as educators to develop or customise the content and the assessment instrument further to suit your modules, your programme learning outcomes. The platform is compatible with university virtual learning environments, for example, Blackboard, Moodle, and the results can be migrated for collation and for use by examination boards. It's incredibly flexible in terms of learning, teaching and assessment, and it can reduce the reliance on traditional teaching methods, many of which we know can be labour intensive in larger nursing student cohorts. Through timetabling online learning, more time is available for the quality of group activities, practicals and clinical simulation. And the LT evaluation or digital assessment can be set to release assessments to a specific cohort, predetermined dates, and to meet your examination regulations. We are very aware of the investment institutions have made in clinical simulation technology, and it is recognised as one of the ideal preparations for clinical practice. I'm one of its greatest advocates, and before students have real patient encounters. Practicing in a safe, supported environment where errors are understood is widely accepted as a fundamental approach to patient safety. LT provides case scenarios based on specific patient cases being studied and is tailored specifically to clinical simulation techniques. You can transfer clinical simulation scenarios or you can copy them onto the screens of advanced human patient simulators. You can use them in role play or with professional patients. Practice learning, the LT does not directly give students practice learning, and very aware it's 50% of the programme, so it's a huge consideration. Obviously there is a very, very advanced system in the UK when it comes to management of practice learning environments, supervision, support of students, and it does represent an absolutely exemplary model. But LT is a focus on patients and nursing skills, and combined with the 24/7 access, it can provide a major educational support for students whilst on practice locations. The internal portfolio, again, is a very desirable feature which they can develop during their theory and practice components of the programme as their ability to reflect improves. So I'll move on to the next slide now. And again, what I've done is, again, hopefully pulling everything together here. Again, you're seeing the immersive nursing modules, so your case study, education, evaluation, again, that's the exam if you wish it to be. the lab, the practicals, the scenario, again, which can be taken into clinical simulation and used with your advanced human patient simulators or in role play or professional patients. And at the bottom, the flow of lessons in the clinical skills modules, the preparation for the skill, the practice of the skill, and the quiz, which again can be an exam. Now, lots of things you can do. You can set administrative access to the LT platform. Now, you can do that in terms of what is known as an instance administrator, who has access to the entire platform and can edit and author within it. You can set it just for course administrators, for people during who are working in a particular program year or just in a particular model. It's up to you how you want to manage the administration of the system. You can also administer and manage all the student cohorts who are accessing, who have licenses for LT. And you can have it so that students can access only what they're working on at that point in time, say in year 1 or year 2, or you can allow them to be in year 2 but look back on their work in year 1. So it's entirely up to you how you want to, if you like, manage access for students. You can create media-rich nursing content if you so wish. You can set academic levels. You know, whatever you feel is best to optimise student engagement and interactivity with the system. And ADI will provide you with maximum support whilst you're learning, if you like, the tools of lab authoring and editing. Now, I'm just going to move on to the next slide. And this slide gives a little video clip of lab authoring itself. So I'll just let you see that. It's just a few moments long. Okay, that was just to give you a little flavour of someone doing a little bit of lab authoring there, and as you saw in the slide, the educator slide, the comment that it's very straightforward to do once you've had some practice, and it's only limited by your actual imagination. Move on now to, this is some of the mappings, and these are very, very much cut down mappings. I'm very aware of the size of mappings that get into the curriculum documents for Nursing and Midwifery Council approvals. But in this one, what I've done is I've taken the skills modules on the left-hand side of the slide from the LT clinical skills collection, and on the other side, I've gone into the standards for future nurses, and I've mapped against Annex A, Annex B, and the nursing procedures numbered as you actually see. And I've been able to illustrate, if you like, how LT makes, if you like, or meets the requirements of the NMC standards in respect of the standards presented here. And it's applicable to skills required in adult nursing and those in shared learning in mental health, learning disability and child. To move on, as an additional mapping, I have, and again a cut down, I have mapped or showed the correlation between the, the immersive nursing, pedagogical methods and NMC educational standard framework to part 1, learning culture, part 3, student empowerment, and part 5, curriculum and assessment. And on the other side, I've given you, if you like, the features of LT and then some of the kind of learning and teaching approaches in LT that map directly onto the educational standards framework. Now, I have not included part 2, which is educational governance and quality, and I've not included part 4, which is educators and assessors, and although it is not directly provided in the LT platform, all students' data, learning data, when they interact with the system, all their assessment data is available to you and can be collated and used in quality assurance reports. It can also be used to provide anonymous evaluation research, and also a focus, if you like, for future research. So I'm hoping that kind of cut down, if you like, mapping is helpful to you. Right now, I've spoken about Otago Polytechnic on a few slides as we've moved forward, and they found themselves in a very challenging situation around 2014. For some 5 years, there had been a national demographic trend of declining recruitment in New Zealand, and they were affected like other institutions at that particular time. So in addition to less than optimal recruitment, they also had, if you like, problems with student progression and student pass rates. Now, they made some decisions to rectify their situation, and they made the decision to enhance their curriculum. They modernised their teaching methods by moving from a traditional teaching approach to digital technology, i.e. LT, as an immersive learning curriculum in 2015. Now, they employed some research around that time, if you like, to look at some of the student cohorts and look at how their learning improved as a direct result of an immersive learning platform. Now, there were a number of outcomes from the study. Some are on your screen, some are not. But in terms of qualitative outcomes, the educators noted that using LT improved the efficiency and effectiveness of their nursing labs, in the main because it doubled the face-to-face time. Oh, sorry, it's just sorry, I just saw somebody flash. They were just saying cheerio. They found that it increased the efficiency and effectiveness of the nursing labs, doubled their face-to-face time that educators spent with students, so increased the quality of it. In terms of quantitative outcomes over a 3-year period, they improved recruitment significantly, in fact more than threefold, as you see on the screen. They noted that through interactivity, students contextualised their learning, improving their theoretical and practice outcomes with 98% programme completion and 92% graduate employment. They had an enhanced student success rate, and they reduced their failure by 50%, and a pass rate they increased to 97%. So really quite a significant piece of research, a very, very nice piece of research to read, and we're happy to share the presentation and the link with you after we're finished today. Now, obviously, I've said quite a lot already, and hopefully a reasonable amount of depth. But I know it's always daunting to try to have to even consider a different approach to programme delivery, and particularly when you're developing and writing, what are considerable amount of work in a nursery curriculum. So it's pretty daunting, and particularly if you're looking at a curriculum that is technology based and perhaps is quite a different approach to the learning, teaching and assessment that you're doing at the moment or have experience of in the past. So AD Instruments very, very much understand the educator's hesitation, and they understand you're responsible for the student outcomes. It's a huge responsibility. So they provide an amazing range of support for educators who wish to adopt the LT platform. Now, in the first instance, they will customise training services, providing hands-on workshops and courses. And Tom, you were introduced to at the very beginning of the webinar. He's been at I've been at I think 5 or so of his training sessions, and they're just absolutely excellent. And Tom is a real whiz kid at really customising and tailoring the workshop to just exactly what the educator's needs are. These can also be delivered on site, which increases the convenience of training. And the training can be done in a number of formats, as you see on screen: personal, software, products and demonstrations. In respect of support online, the ADI website itself has videos, brochures, downloads and online help, and there is also help within the LT system itself. There's some little videos that give you getting started, etc. You can access experts for instructional digital design if you are looking at lab authoring or editing. And there is also a collaborative forum set up by AD Instruments called the Brain Trust. Now, the Brain Trust is a community, if you like, of LT users who can meet up annually and attend workshops, give peer presentations, and receive some feedback from themselves and also from AD Instruments who attend. It's not restricted to LT. It can cover the whole range of education as people wish and as people's development is taking them. And again, they are AD Instruments are a global company, and they're committed to development and ongoing development. And what you have below are some of the anatomical developments that are going to be launched in the very near future. Now, I'm going to just go here. So I want to thank you all for listening to me. I'm hoping that that was helpful, that it was logical to you, and I'm very happy to take any questions, as is Marcus.
Brilliant, thanks, Alison. I've just changed the functionality now, so if anybody has a question, you can unmute yourselves and you can ask away.
Nope.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I think we had a question from Emma. Is that all right, Emma?
You can also just type your question in chat if you prefer.
Yeah.
Struggling to unmute you, Emma, so apologies.
It's not working, okay, right.
Your microphone's not working, Emma. Okay. Do you want to type your question in and we'll read it out and answer it? Does anybody else want to ask a question, and we'll come back to Emma's once she's typed it in?
Okay. Resistance, right? Okay, right. Do you want to do the first one, Marcus? You know that better than me.
So from Damien was, do you have any higher education institutes in England using the system? So we currently have 2 universities, which is the University of the West of Scotland, using it for nursing education, and also University of Northampton. We have 20 universities using LT across the entirety of Europe, over 70 globally, and they're using it across a range of disciplines. So we have nursing, medicine, pharmacy, biomedical sciences, sport and exercise sciences, because we have content across other disciplines as well.
And do you want me to answer the second question, was about resistance?
I'll let you answer Emma's question if that's all right, Alison. You've got a better handle on that than I have.
Yeah, okay. I mean, hopefully I've taken a very positive approach, and I think the biggest issues are when you're selling it to your staff, as I did as well, is that you're showing them what the advantages are, and I hope I've got across that this can cut face-to-face teaching quite quite dramatically. It can also cut marking quite dramatically. It can allow lecturers to follow their own passions in terms of lab authoring and editing. You know, and again, you're saying to them, you're not throwing away your materials that you've already grown over all those years. You can adapt these and you can use all these. So I suppose it's getting positivity into the argument. I'm not saying there won't be any resistance. Of course there may be some, but what I've always done is taken the, you know, if you like, the people who were very interested and were saying yes to it immediately on board with me, started the training, you know, did the plan, if you like, for adopting this LT into the curriculum. And remember, when I adopted it, I was in the middle of a curriculum, whereas what I've said at the beginning is the opportunity here is to have it as a fresh curriculum when you start using the new NMC standards, whenever that is in the next year or so. So I think that might make it actually slightly easier to do. But remember, you've got all the training. Tom will come and do training on site with you. Again, as I did training myself with lecturers, I did lots of meetings about LT and how we would implement it, allowing people to speak, etc. So it's about leadership, it's about bringing the group together, listening to everybody and showing them all the big advantages of doing it. And the advantages for students are superb. Students take to it like ducks to water. There's no question of it, to every aspect of it. Right, okay. Is there any, if there's anything else you want to know? I mean, obviously you could visit my colleagues in the University of the West of Scotland. I'm no longer there, I'm doing other things now, but they'd be probably happy to speak with you as well about their experiences in adopting LT.
Thanks, Alison. Did anybody else have any more questions? Right, in the absence of any more questions coming through, I'll just keep watching the chat and see if anybody else answers anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to express a huge thanks to Alison for hosting the webinar, for all of you for attending today. I hope it was useful. Please reach out to us if you've got any questions. We will be sending out a follow-up email to you all, which will have the slide deck from today, a link to the video we've recorded of the presentation if you want to share with your colleagues. And Alison, I think you've got some, I think you might have a nurse nearby somewhere, hopefully soon. And also we've got a forthcoming short video coming out about UWS and how they are finding LT for their nursing program. After the webinar ends, when you exit, you should also be redirected to a page where you can sign up for a short 30-day trial. Within this, there are some example lessons from the immersive nursing. So there's the entire sort of immersive nursing module for Mary, including the videos in full that Alison showed you earlier. There's also the clinical skills. There's a vital signs from the clinical skills collection. And there's also some content from our other life science collections in there as well. Excellent. All right, so if there's no further questions, again, thanks everybody for attending, and look out for, yes, sorry, Jackie, it will be available as a recording, as I just said. Emma, yes, if you want to attend any of the other institutes, then I can get in touch with certainly people from UWS who are very happy for people to visit them and see how they're implementing LT in their institutions. So yes, with their agreement, I can share their details with you. Brilliant. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to close the webinar now and look out for a follow-up email coming with all of that information in the next week.
Okay. Thank you.